I want to tell the story of a man named George Armstrong Custer. And this isn't like some modern day politician or pastor or anything. He's really old. Like, he fought in the Civil War era over 100 years ago. So he's obviously long dead. But he was a very high-ranking official, and he was known for being overly aggressive and always fighting to seize what he wanted. Only problem is, after the Civil War and as things progressed, he kind of got old, and the people of his civilization didn't really want him fighting anymore, so they tried to put barriers stopping him. They demoted him. They wanted to strip him of his reputation. However, he was a man of pride, and that's the thing of people who are overtly proud. They very rarely can step down from something or admit when they're getting older. So he kept fighting, and he was going to do whatever it took to reestablish himself as an American hero. Now, there's one group of people that have pretty much always been the enemies of Americans since this area got populated, and that's the Native Americans. We always wanted this land for ourselves, but they're always been here. Like, oh, we got to get rid of these Indians. We don't want them here. So, periodically throughout history, like, they used to have all of North America, but they've been getting pushed back further and further. They're getting more isolated. The areas that they can inhabit are smaller and smaller. And they're normally not very good lands. We normally take the good stuff for ourselves and put them where they wouldn't be a negative influence to us, where they wouldn't get in the way. So after a while, we told them to stay in this mountain range. However, eventually we discovered that there was gold in the mountain range, so we wanted to kick them out. Only problem is they already had a lot of ancestors buried in that mountain range, and they weren't going to give it up. So George Armstrong Custer, he saw this as an opportunity to reestablish himself once again. Now, he didn't want to try and manipulate them or drive them out. Even those things would be bad, but he wanted to kill every single one of them as these horrible savages that are destroying America. So what he did was he took several soldiers, he got them to fight with him and march in, because he figured that he was just going to totally destroy them. They're just one stupid little village of Indians, you know. That's no threat to us, right? Of course, the thing that he didn't recognize was several Native American villages were going to get together and enter that village. And they basically swarmed his army. He didn't expect that at all. He expected there was just going to be one small little group. You can kill them and you can be victorious, but they weren't having any of that, and they ganged up on them. So they got slaughtered, and he obviously died. And if you're being put down and your power is being taken away, but you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to show him a great American hero, and you die, you get absolutely slaughtered doing that, you're not going to be remembered very well. There's two messages that I kind of take from this. One is, you can't just keep kicking someone in the balls before they kick back. You can't just keep fucking with people. Eventually they're going to retaliate, and that's what happened here. All these Native Americans got together because they're like, we're sick of the white man attacking us. And I think that's a reasonable thing to expect to happen. If you keep oppressing one group, they're going to fight back. As how that relates to the modern day, I don't exactly know how, because there isn't necessarily one group that's being overtly oppressed. Obviously, there's still racism and sexism in the world, and homophobia, although I don't think that exactly is the same thing, since they're not a group of people, they're more so individuals in our group and every group. But I don't know how it could work. Maybe it'll be the rich against the poor, because there's an increasing wealth gap. You don't know. But eventually, some people might say enough is enough, and we're going to fight back, and we're going to destroy anybody who gets in our way. That's just the way that people function. When they want something, they want it, and we need to keep that in mind. But the second lesson is what happened afterwards. Like, after this story happened, after Custer and all his men were slaughtered, and that's that all the newspapers printed stories about these savage Native Americans who just killed these poor innocent men. And of course that would happen, because you have an agenda against them. You want to make them the bad guys. You want to take any excuse you can to kick them out. And it was the perfect excuse. They'd killed several white men who were Americans and just fighting for patriotism and whatever they were thinking of. So even though they did retaliate, eventually it just ended up being worse for them. So in a way, it sort of paints like a nihilistic picture. Like, what's the point of even trying? Because if you're at this disadvantage where they're trying to destroy you, but you stand up against them, a lot of the time that's not going to help your case. The only way to really win the hearts and minds of others is through a non-violent movement. But if you do that, you're still going to get destroyed anyway. I mean, even to this day, there's a fair amount of racism against Native Americans. Like, a lot of people still think that they're just stupid alcoholics who should just get off their asses and do stuff. It's sort of like how a lot of neocons that you see being interviewed on Fox News, like Tea Party movement, talk about black people. Oh, they're just lazy. Slavery's over. They should get a job. They should just start working. Why aren't they trying? It's sort of like that, except amplified tenfold against Native Americans. And even though there is a lot more empathy for them now, it isn't really very widespread. And it's sort of weird. It's like, on the one hand, don't mess with them because they'll get you back. But on the other hand, it's like, you can't really get them back because even if you win the small battles, you're going to lose the war. Because in the end, things never really got better necessarily for the Native. Well, they did get better, but they're not perfect. So, I don't know. It's a very odd story, and I don't know if any... There's not necessarily a moral, because it's an actual historical account, and I'll link the guy's Wikipedia page so you can read more about him and in more specific details if you want. But I just thought it was an interesting story, and I tend to be pretty interested in history, so I guess that's my geek out moment for the day.